Hello everyone, it is Melissa and I am here with another layout. I am doing a 12 by 12 to document my husband doing another race, one of his favorite races in April. And so I'm starting off by pulling from my product jar, and actually the only thing I don't get used on this page is mixed media. Or not mixed media, sequins, sorry about that. So you see there I have all my pulls, and one of them is flare, so I'm going to use one of those flares from Fancy Pants. And I also have pulled my sports ephemera and papers. I keep them organized by theme in those little boxes and this this divider, embellishment divider folder thing. And so I'm starting off by pulling from an alphabet sticker sheet. And this, in fact, in my mind, relates to thickers, the pull for thickers, because it's not an alphabet. I'm using an alphabet for my stash. It's not an alphabet that I am making with alphabet dies. And so for me, this is the same basically as using a thicker. I don't have very many thickers. If you guys have seen my craft room tour, you know that I don't have a lot. I have maybe 10 or so packages. And so one of the things I like to do when I buy stickers is cut them apart and put the alphabet with my alphabets and word stickers with my word stickers and so on. It's a great way to utilize your sticker sheets. And so here I was just showing you some stickers and things, elements from my stash that are relatable to this page. And I have put my alphabet, the title Speed Racer, on some wax paper, and I colored it with a Sharpie marker to make it black. I do this quite often. And so I'm going to start cutting the papers and getting my base like set up and put together. Excuse me. And so one of the things I'm doing here, I'm going to use that gray gear page as a big background element onto some navy 12 by 12 cardstock for my stash. And the title Speed Racer, believe it or not, I was talking to my husband, this is the first time I've actually used this title on a race page, and one of his favorite characters growing up, even still as an adult and as a child, was Speed Racer, in fact. And so yeah, I thought it was hilarious that I'm just using it now. He has a ton of Speed Racer stuff. Like, you know, when you tell someone you like something, they go typically overboard for gifts. So he has like Speed Racer bobblehead, Speed Racer, you know, tons of stuff. He actually, when I met him, had a license plate that said Racer X, vanity plate. He doesn't anymore, but so that was kind of fun. And so, okay, so then I cut a cream piece of pattern paper for my base, and that is where my title is going to live here in a little bit. It's a nice light color, so my title is really going to pop off my page. So let's see, I am using a scalloped edge punch, and I'm going to use that on the top. And you know, in hindsight, if I would have thought about it, I actually have a postage border punch that would have given the look of like gears or teeth from a gear, but it's fine. I like them both. What you see me doing there is, you guys, I have rub-ons that are like 10 years old, and believe it or not, they still work beautifully. And so I've been ticking away at them. Usually one gets on a cycling or, you know, some sort of athletic page, sports page that I do for my kiddos. And so I'm using one here and putting it on the photograph, just using the end of my tweezers to varnish it down, and it works awesome. I do have rub-ons in my stash that I have thrown out because they do not have a shelf life forever. But these just keep working great for me, and until they don't, I will keep them. So yeah, I'm placing that, and it's acting almost as a stamp because, you know, you guys know I like to stamp on my pictures, especially when there is a lot of white space. And so yeah, that says believe in yourself, and it's on the top right above the finish line. And when I place my photos, I'm actually being very aware of the direction my husband's riding, and you know, the fact that he's riding into the page, kind of looking like he's riding into the finish line, and I really like that. That Project Life is a cut apart. It says cycling down the side, and it was just a 12 by 12 sheet that had some cut aparts in the back. I think I got it from the expo that I go to in Novi every year. So one thing I showed you earlier was the back of that gray paper it's actually those Converse from Jelly Bean Soup. And I really used that color combination in my page. I really liked all the colors pulled together. And so I tried my best to mimic that because I thought it was, perfect. Ultimately, I bring in red and, black is obviously a neutral with the cream as a neutral as well. But I bring in red because the finish line is such a huge focal point in the page as far as it being the finish line. It's very significant for me. So I thought bringing in red, was okay. So those gears I have on the page were actually leftovers. I have a gears die, I want to say it's from Sizzix, and whenever I make one of these pages, I always keep the leftover bits. There's no sense in throwing them out. So I'm sure I got those from my sports box. And I'm just going to use a handful of those on the page as well. More as fillers than anything else, but they're very significant elements. I'm a very thematic scrapper, so I'm going to go ahead and use a handful of them on this page. And the colors went, so it was perfect. So along with my title, there's some turquoise washi as well. Along with my title, which I stamp with the Speed Racer Alpha letters, I use a Carrie Bradford stamp set that says GoGo, or it's called Go, and I essentially stamp GoGo Speed Racer, because if you've ever heard that cartoon, that's their little song, and so I thought that was fun. So I actually used my Stampin' Up! Stamparatus whenever I want to stamp on a 12 by 12 page. My Stamparatus gives me a ton of freedom to stamp wherever I want, whereas my Misty, I only have the 8, I don't think it's even 8.5 by 11 size, but I only have that size in the Misty, and so it doesn't give me as much freedom as the Stamparatus. So I actually use the Stamparatus to stamp across the page, which you'll see coming up here, and I use a gray ink from a gray combo pack from Altenew that I have in my stash. I'm also backing the finish line photo on some black because, like I mentioned, I was going to bring some black and red in. Here I'm using that border punch again because I want to accent with red in a couple more places, and I actually don't end up using the scallop because in my head I have it set that sometimes scallop can be a little more of a feminine feel, and so when I did it on the red piece, I wasn't loving like the scallop on the top and the scallop on the side of the photo, so I end up just flipping it over and using the straight edge of the red, and you'll see me do that here shortly. The other thing you're seeing on the layout that I didn't show on camera is the fact that I stamped the sentiment, "So proud of you," and that's actually from the Stamps of Life Happy for Banners 2 stamp set. And so I stamped the banner on white, and then I used the sentiment and stamped it in on the inside. And I just tucked it in one of the gears there on the bottom and glued it down. I end up using the piece of flair that says #1 best guy, and yeah, I like that. I'm kind of just tucking gears in under photos and making a note that it's giving it more of like a layered feel. Adding between layers gives your eye, a feel of dimension. One of the things that I don't also show on camera coming up here is the black mist that I end up spraying on the page, and I do not like it one bit. So it smeared and it just looked weird. So you will see me in my attempt to cover up a lot of the big splotches with like a gray enamel dots from my stash. And that was an afterthought because I had a panic attack, and yeah, It's a good way to cover up some of the messes you got. You can also use, I have used in the past, word stickers and just kind of sprinkle them around the page to cover up or kind of mute down some of the messiness that certain, mists can leave. One of the big problems is I didn't have the patience to let it sit and dry, and so my elements just, when I used a paper towel, just smooshed down, and it didn't look good at all. Okay, so I'm gluing my gears down. I'm at the home stretch here. The last thing I want to be mindful to use, like I mentioned, I didn't get sequins used on this page, but I am going to make it a point to use everything else. And the eyelets that I add on the page were an afterthought. I almost skipped them because I thought, it's fine if I don't get, all the elements used. Do I strive for it? Absolutely. But it was fine if I didn't. And actually, one of the things I like about using my product jar, and I don't know if anybody else has felt this way, let me know in the comments below, but I don't do kit clubs, so I don't get kits of any kind except like the Allie Edwards Stories of the Month, and that's more Project Life based, but it doesn't come with, pattern papers and all the goodies that a full scrapbooking kit comes with. So when I use my product jar, I get a lot of guidance as to where to go with the page. If I'm like, oh, I gotta use a frame, it's just like, I don't want to say it's, forcing you to use your kit, but it's forcing me to use my supplies and giving my mind some place to wander outside of my comfort zone. Because, if it was up to me, I would use the same 5 things on every page. I would just switch it up. So it's good to have that freedom to experiment with a variety of, shop my stash. So what you just saw me do there was add some dimensional stickers onto the backs of the corners and also to one of the stickers that I pulled from that sticker book I got from Hobby Lobby. And that sticker under the finish line says, "It takes heart to do what we do." And I'll actually end up using another sticker underneath the photo of my husband on his bike that says determination. Okay, so here I'm showing you my stamping that I did across the page. I put down my title and, just have it nestled in all nice in there together. I like when it sometimes does that. I don't do it all the time, but with the G for go, it has such a long tail, so to speak, that it was fun to, since I was carrying it throughout the page, to nestle my title in amongst those spaces. So here I'm showing you the mist that I used. It was just a Studio Calico black. And, so eyelets was a pull for my jar. So I almost omitted it, but I thought, you know what? I have several ideas in my head where I could use these elements. So I went ahead and used my crocodile, and I set those eyelets on the bottom of my page. And I'm going to actually use a grosgrain navy ribbon from my stash and just string it through those holes. And I like that added element of texture on the bottom there. It's just a little added bit. So it's another fun way to get ribbon and stuff used on your page to use it. I have used it quite a few times as like a washi strip across my page, so to speak. Excuse me. And so here I am showing you the close-ups, starting at the top with I roughed up that scalloped border. I stamped the date underneath the photo, and I also add this little bee bicycle right there at the end of the title. I did add some gray pattern paper underneath the finish line photo and on top of it, just because it had some of all the colors in it, and I thought it was a nice element to bring in. There's my Heidi Swap date stamp. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my video. I would love for you to subscribe, give me a thumbs up. I will put the links to my other social media in the description box below for Facebook, Instagram at Cut It Up Creations. And I would love for you to subscribe. And thank you again, and I'll see you soon. Bye!